Well, here we are. It's Friday. Let's see, October 21st, 2022. And this, of course, is our weekly video. We go through these every week. We take a look and see what's sold on the auction market around the world in the Asian art world and see what's been happening over on Live Auctioneers, on eBay, upcoming sales, changes to the site, and so forth. There's a lot going on. This week we added some things to the site, just so you know. If you come over to the homepage and scroll down, you remember a week or so ago we added this search for the National Palace Museum. It's a blank page. You can go in and you can search for things, look around, browse. It's very, very handy. And as luck would have it, the National Palace Museum has now done it also. So you have the Palace Museum, and the National Palace Museum has created a searchable page. If you click on that, it brings you over here to this. And what you can do here is you can search. You can change the language over to English if you want, and it'll give you let's see here, all of the items down the left-hand side by type, and lacquer, enamels, jade, and so forth. Then you can search further. You can run further filters by dynasty and period and so forth. If you click this little button, it'll open up all the way through modern time, right? Qing, Ming, Yuan, Jin, so forth. And if you really want to get into it, what you can do is if you're in the Qing category, Qing Dynasty, and you want to look up Qianlong wares, if you go to Google Translate and type in Qianlong and have it translate that into simplified Chinese for you, you can cut and paste it into this bar at the top, and it'll pull up all the Qianlong material or all the Yongchen material, the Kangxi material, and so forth. It's a pretty handy thing. They don't provide a lot of information about the object, so you have to have a pretty good idea what you're doing as far as identifying things and whatnot. But the images are very, very good, and it's a nice resource. It's 2,594 pages long worth of stuff. So there's plenty of eye candy to go through. All right. The other thing I wanted to mention also was that Bonhams has gotten a couple of sales up online here. And if you go to the catalog section in the red box here and click on that, it'll take you over to this page. And the first two catalogs right now are the Bonhams, the Marsh collection, and Fine Chinese Works of Art. It's going to happen in about a week, a little over a week from now, so you have time to go and look. We've added them all to the global pages. They're all on there. So knock yourselves out. We're going to talk a little bit about the Marsh collection because it's a really interesting load of stuff. It's very reminiscent of the Butler, the famous Butler collection. This is the Fine Chinese Works of Art catalog. Let's see here. We'll back this down. There we go. That's the Fine Asian Works of Art sale they've got going. Some great things. It closes on the 31st and on November 1st. It's a 2-day sale. All right, and then over here to this, the Marsh collection. This is a really interesting collection. It's a small collection, about 50 lots, but very, very fine brush pots. There's an emphasis on brush pots and transitional wares. This is transitional to Kangxi period material, and there's some extremely rare pieces in here. One of them is this calligraphy pot on the cover here, a very rare bird. They in the catalog they flattened it out to give you a good look at it, and this particular piece is very reminiscent of the famous vases. There's one in the National Palace Museum where they did that kind of work. And here's the brush pot itself. It's estimated at what is it, 80 to 120,000 pounds, which isn't that outrageous for. This is mark and period Kangxi on the bottom. So it's not a really crazy price because Kangxi period and transitional period brush pots lately have been doing extremely well in auctions. As many of you recall, $50,000, $80,000 for good ones. This is a phenomenal one, and there's a good write-up on it, a lot of information, and they show other known examples here, and of course the big vases. This one is in the the Palace Museum in Beijing, and this is in the Nanjing Museum, the other one. There's a couple of these in the world, and now there's a very fine brush pot, quite similar to that pattern. And then other brush pots, burlwood brush pots, all kinds of porcelain pieces. This really, really nice Joseon period or early Kangxi period jar. You just scroll through it. This great sleeve vase with an immortal on it. All kinds of transitional and Kangxi wares in here. It's really worth looking at. I think you'll enjoy it. Much of it is very similar to the material you see in the famous Butler collection. This vase is absolutely fantastic, spectacular quality. The decoration on here, the enameling is so fine. It's pretty unusual, put it mildly. And I think the estimate seems awfully reasonable on it. What is the estimate? 30 to 50,000, 30 to 50,000 pounds. And given what typical transitional wares have been bringing these days, I think this one stands a good chance of doing extremely well. It's just a beautiful example, but it goes on and on. Like I said, there's about 50 lots in here. There's some rare forms and some forms you'll be familiar with. There's also this very unusual celadon ground with underglazed blue and underglazed red. Brush pot with demons of Qujing. Let's see here. How big is this? 7¼ inches tall, estimated at 15 to 20,000 pounds, which seems reasonable. That seems quite reasonable for that. That's a beautiful example. So it'll be interesting to see how the market receives these pieces. But it's a good collection. There's a good write-up at the beginning about literati material and objects from this period. There's a piece at the beginning also about the collectors and how they view their collections and so forth, which is an interesting topic unto itself. Why people collect, what they collect, how they collect, what gets them interested in that kind of thing. Because we all have our different fascinations in this world. So at any rate, that's what's going on there. And what else has been happening? The weekly video for the global pages is up. It's already there. So if you go and want to see what was happening on the global member pages this week, go ahead and do it. That's the subscription side. One of the things I wanted to mention too was that I had mentioned a few weeks ago that there will be more and more stuff coming on now that we're heading into the fall. It always gets busy in the fall. And the Live Auctioneers page is filled for the U.S. and the Live Auctioneers page for outside the U.S., that's Europe, Canada, and so forth, got so full the page would no longer load. So we had to add a second page. And we may end up adding a second page for Live Auctioneers. As I mentioned, we've been working on ways to find more and more and more interesting things, ways to search methods, and we're getting some pretty good ones. And there's probably a couple of thousand things on there right now that we've pulled down from around the world. This is page one of the Live Auctioneers just the USA. And if you go in and look, you'll see there's a fantastic amount of stuff on here. It's right now we're barely touching the page, but keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and down and down and down and down by section. There's a lot of material on here. It just keeps going. I'm not even halfway down the page yet. And there's some Japanese woodblock prints. If you're a Japanese print buyer, check it out this week. And there's a very good auction of Japanese wares that was just put on today by of a Bonhams sale in London that's coming up. Bonhams seems to have sort of avoided Asia Week, but now they're really piling it on for the month of October. And then over on the European side, EU and Canada, you'll also see here there's a button that takes you over to page 2. All right, and if you go over to page 2, this is page 2, and page 2 is just as full as page 1, with good material all the way through. There's a lot of content on here, so have some fun. Have some fun for the subscribers. For $1 a week, it's you get a pretty good selection, I think. And what else is going on? I had talked about this plate a few times. I just thought it was so striking and attractive. As I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, there's one that's virtually identical to it in size. This was a very big plate. This was not a little dinner plate. This thing was 21 inches and a quarter wide. And there's one like it in the Musée Guimet in Paris. I think it's a twin to it. Absolutely beautiful piece, originally handled by the Chinese porcelain company when Khalil Risk ran the place, before he unfortunately passed away a few years ago, a number of years ago. This was a very nice example, and it ended up selling for $7,000 plus the premium, which was about 30%. So the hammer price, all in, the full price ended up being about $9,000 for this charger. But rare bird, beautiful condition, and unusually large, just really, really big. All right. Now, over here, the Freeman sale took place just 2 days ago. Today's the 21st. It happened on the 18th, on Wednesday, I guess. And they had a good result. I spoke to Ben before the sale at Freeman's, and he was pretty happy with the reaction they've gotten so far. And I know a number of you have been in touch because he said I've heard from some of the folks that use this site. And he seemed very up, and I can see why. The results overall were quite good. One of them was this big Yixing famille rose enameled basin, 19th century. It has a chin lung mark on the back, but it was probably made during the very early part of the 19th century. Beautifully decorated. We've seen these before. This style with the landscapes and so forth. We've seen them before on the market. They always do well. There was one a couple of years ago, a year or so ago, that came up that was actually fairly worn. It had a chip out of it, and ended up selling for about $2,500. This one looked to be in excellent condition from what I'm seeing all the way around. It's about 14 inches in diameter. It's a big basin, and sold for $4,750 plus. So the all-in price ended up being probably close to $6,000 for it. A nice piece of porcelain. And then the Guangzhou Dragon Bowl. We had a bunch on the identification assistance service that we do, where people send us images and links to auctions and so forth. We had a number of inquiries about this bowl. I thought it was wonderful because everybody's leery because there's so many copies of Guangzhou bowls and Guangzhou porcelains on the market today. You'd think by the quantity that you see out there with Guangzhou marks that it must have been the most prolific period in porcelain production in China's history. The fact is, it was one of the least prolific. And 99% of the Guangzhou marked porcelains around today are either Republic or modern, and a lot of them are modern. They're making some very, very convincing modern pieces. But this one was fine. I love the dragon on it. I like the pattern. The pattern you've seen before. If you've been collecting for a while, you'll see it on 18th century wares, often done in enamels. Picture this with colors instead of underglazed blue, and suddenly it'll look very, very familiar. This one looked absolutely right. It brought more than I thought. People wanted to know what I thought it should bring, and I thought around 4,000 or so would be, okay, 4,000 or 5,000. It went a little over that. It went up to 6,000 plus the premium, so you're up at around $7,800. So it shows you it really illustrates how much interest there is on Guangzhou market period things when they're authentic. It's a very strong market. And this was a good one, but you gotta watch out for the copies. The copies of Guangzhou porcelains are everywhere. It's unbelievable. And the bronze, the late 18th, early 19th century bronze with inlay. This was a nice one. It was like 14 inches tall. Nice inlay, great looking patina on it, nice surface, no damage. It had everything going, and it was good size, 14 inches. And I like the flange handles on the side here, these sort of archaic creatures, or morphic creatures, or whatever those are, the way they created those flanges. It's an unusual treatment. And it ended up selling for around probably about $3,000, including the buyer's premium, which is fine. That's what inlaid pieces bring. And then this was a nifty thing. On a glance, it looks like a creamer. It looks like a little 5 or 6 inch creamer. This was actually a jug, and it was 15 inches tall. This was a big piece of porcelain, great big piece, export ware, superbly well decorated though, very, very fine workmanship. Always look at the fineness of the work, not just the shape in the piece, but the fineness of the work and the condition of the fineness of the work. And on this piece, you notice there's a lot of gilt groundwork underneath the famille rose running around the field decorations, and the gilding is all look to be in quite good shape all the way around. There's a picture of the bottom of it. Let's see, where did this sold at Christie's at one point back in was it January 2014? But a nice looking pot, beautiful example, and ended up selling for just $1,500 plus premium. And I think that was a very nice piece. That was a very big piece of export ware, and it was made around 1780 or so, something like that. All right, and then to this, a nice piece of silk. I think this was a good buy. It was about 5 feet in diameter, about 18 inches high or so. Beautiful condition, gold, this sort of gold ground, lots of Buddhist emblems on it, conch shells and one thing and another. The dragon in the middle, circling the pearl. And it's all framed and ready to go. I mean, there you are. And framing textiles is expensive. So the frame on this thing would probably cost somewhere around probably $500 to $700, I would expect, to have that thing framed like that. And somebody picked it up for $1,800 plus premium. I think that was a very good buy. This is a big piece, 59 inches wide, 24 inches tall, not 18, 24. A big piece of silk. And it was a great buy. And this was a great piece of silk, too. And I think this also was a good buy. It had a little staining down on the left-hand side here. You can barely see it. You can see a little sign of water, a little water line right here, a couple of spots, but nothing too bad. Slight bit of fading. You'll notice that the color here is slightly lighter than the color here. That may be something a textile conservator could get off of it, but what was really wonderful about it was the quality of the shading of the silks. How masterfully the weaver was able to create all these different shades of red and pink and almost skin tones up here, but from a very rich ruby red all the way to a soft pink. That's really skillful weaving. And the lotuses, of course, have the same treatment. And then these beautiful sapphire blue clouds and bats and whatnot. Beautifully done. And this was also a very big piece of silk. It was 59 by 59 inches, I think, roughly. 59 by 57. So it measured just a little under 5 by 5 feet. And it went for $1,900. It's a good buy. And then this I was very shocked by this. This was and I think it's because it was a smaller plate. It was only 8 inches in diameter, but a rare pattern. You don't see these kangxi dishes often with a butterfly pattern very often. You see about a lot in Qianlong period, you see them in Yongchen, but not a lot in kangxi period. And that's what this is. And I liked it a great deal. I thought this was a really nice piece. And unfortunately, I think some people, when they bid on things, they also, they pay a little too much attention to the size, and they're thinking, well, it's only an 8-inch dish. But look at the artwork. Look at how well it was enameled and decorated, and the enameling was in good shape. You don't see a lot of wear on it anywhere. It was very loosely decorated, very almost folky looking. The way they did the butterflies, I liked it a lot. The back of it looked absolutely fine. There's the bottom with that kangxi foot rim, that slight ivory tone to it. Nice glaze all the way around. I don't see any repairs. Somebody picked it up for just $500, and I thought the estimate was pretty reasonable, $800 to $1,200, and it went for with the buyer's premium, you're still under the low estimate by $100 $150. But this was a nice piece. Always look at the artwork. Always base your decision to buy on how well the piece is made. Don't pay any attention to the size. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a mediocre collection of big flashy things that have no quality. So always look at the quality. Always look at the quality first. And then the big crackware porcelain jar, late Ming, very unusual. These are always so undervalued. This sold with the buyer's premium for around $5,000 or $6,000, but very big jar, nice big handsome stout pot, well decorated. I actually have one of these, a little bit different, but the same general period. I love the thing. I've always liked it, and I've owned it for 25 years, 30 years, I guess, at this point. I bought it on Nantucket at an antique shop on the pier, and it was dressed up as a table lamp. I bought that. At any rate, this is a nice thing. This is a really nice jar, and I went for $4,500 plus premium, which is about 30%. So you're up around $5,800 for it. But for some reason, these jars have never brought strong amounts of money. All right, and then on to this, the Guangzhou flambe glazed Hu-form vase. This particular type with these light shades flambe on the shoulders. We've seen them before. They turn up here and there. Christie's had one a few months ago, as I recall, and so forth. And they always do well. They're very attractive. The bottom of it looks absolutely fine. There it is. That's the Guangzhou mark, and you have this blackened area on the foot, which you see on a lot of these Hu-form vases. It's something that just for some reason they're on there. You don't see it on other vases, but you do see it on those. And it went for $22,000 plus premium, so you're up around $30,000 all in, which is about right. It was a nice looking piece of porcelain, absolutely beautiful piece. And this, another Ming jar. This was about, how big was this one? 13 inches tall. Had a little damage to the top. Had a little bit of damage up here along the top, which could be a pretty easy fix because it doesn't seem to doesn't look like it's down too much into the decoration. But this particular form, we've seen these before a number of times. I've had them. Other dealers I know have had them. Josh Chamberlain had one a few years ago. And there's another one. And very handsome and good size. $1,500 plus premium. And then on to this one. This was one of my favorite lots because I like carving, as many of you know. I like carvings a lot. I just think there's a real warmth to them. And this one was beautifully carved. The quality of the carving, it was late Qing, but the quality of the carving was excellent. The root base was excellent. I love the monkeys on here, the Guan Yin up above, holding some fruit. Just a beautiful piece. And this thing was 33 inches tall, almost 3 feet tall. This was not a little tabletop sculpture. This was a big piece, like a presentation piece. And it went for $28 plus premium. Nice looking piece of wood, though. I love that. I love the carving. And I don't understand why wood carvings are so unappreciated unless they're very early. If they're Sung or Tang, and those they always bring a lot of money. There's a big wooden Buddha coming up over in at that Rouget, the Rouget collection over in Paris. A lot of people wondering how that'll do. It'll probably bring $1 million or $2 million. All right, now what is going on over at eBay? Well, this was an interesting. This is one of these. He called it Straits Dejai Dragon Sleeve Vase. It's not Straits. I don't know why he called it Straits, but anyway, maybe the colors. This is a pattern that's always related to the Empress Dowager because it was something that she allegedly helped design or was involved with and so forth. And this was an umbrella stand. It was a good one, nice looking. I love the dragons on them. They look like floating serpents. They almost look like snakes because they made them so long and thin. And look at the bottom of it. It was blown out completely. It looked like this is the result of somebody dropping a cane into it. And the tip of the cane hits with so much pressure on that little point, eventually cracks through these. And this one has been stapled. It's got staple repairs. It's hit everything but the lottery. And then it's got this big hole in the bottom, and they stuck a piece of plywood in there, which they probably should have put in before they broke the thing. But at any rate, it still brought $705 because of the popularity of this particular pattern. They always do well. And then over here to this very, very nice Fitzhugh export porcelain hot water dish, superb quality. We look at these export wares, I'm always amazed because there's so much, the quality of the work is superior to even a lot of the imperial stuff that was made during the period in blue and white. When you look at the meticulousness of the shading here and here, it's as good as anything you see even on underglazed blue imperial wares as far as fine quality work goes. And they're worth nowhere near the same amounts of money. So it's a great opportunity, in my mind. It's always been a great chance to buy some superb Chinese porcelain decoration for a fraction of what it would be if it was made for the Chinese domestic market. This is a superb piece of porcelain, absolutely great. And it went for just $476. But if you look at it in comparison to other pieces, because they have a mark on them, and they weren't made for export, suddenly they're worth literally 100 times more, literally. It's the I guess it's just the market we live in. All right, and then over to this, we talked about these last week. I was wondering how they do. They did well. These are very similar to what are known as Rockefeller pattern plates because of the central scene, but the Rockefeller pattern dishes have Buddhist figures around the outside of them and so forth. And we're going to see one in a little bit. Josh Chamberlain had a couple of Rockefeller pattern hot water dishes that sold this week. They brought a lot of money. They did very well. But you have this in this central scene, and often related to the not Rockefeller necessarily, the Governor DeWitt Clinton plates. Excuse me, I meant to say DeWitt Clinton. They're Rockefeller, New York. DeWitt Clinton was the governor of New York. Anyway, the DeWitt Clinton pattern with immortals around the outside, not the Rockefeller pattern. And this is they. And normally plates of this size, this quality of decoration, sold for about half this, a pair of them. These sold for $532. Typical 18th century, Chinese export plates that you see Qinlong will sell for 150 or maybe 200. These went for $532 because the pattern is so recognizable, so desirable, very attractive. Nicely done. Beautiful. And let's see what else. Oh, these was really, really great. We had a number of inquiries on these this week as well, on this pair. Very rare Chinese export cup and saucer with the grisaille decoration, European figures and enamels. Just extremely rare. So I told somebody, I said they're probably going to it'll bring $3,000 to $4,000 pretty easily, I suspect, and it did. It ended up selling for $3,700. But these are just a cup and saucer, but rare pattern and in good condition. You notice the enamels are all in nice shape. Bottom of it looks good. There it is together. Really attractive. $3,716. They were very nice. Very, very nice. And then this was, I think, one of the bargains of the week was from Night Heron Antiques out in New Mexico, had these up. This is a pair of, and he dated them properly, Jiajing period cup and saucer, but very unusual pattern and a really unusually shaped mug. The mug on here and it's big. This is a pretty good sized mug. This was not a small mug. This was like a modern day coffee mug. It was hefty and beautifully decorated. Jiajing period. I don't know why this didn't bring $600 or $800. I really don't. The complete mystery to me. Maybe people saw the form and just thought it wasn't Chinese. They may have seen this shape and said, "Well, it looks Chinese, but it's not. The shape is all wrong." But if you look at the bottom of it, that's a Chinese dish, and that's an early 19th century Chinese porcelain, right there. All right, so. Go figure. It went for $154. So, this gets back to the old thing. Leave a bid. If you see something like this, leave a bid because it was a fabulous example. And I think somebody got a steal on it. And then the terrine, Chinese export, rose mandarin terrine. And this, I think, also was a very, very good buy. This was the terrine and under tray. It wasn't a huge terrine. It was like an 8 or 9 inch terrine. The under tray had some wear to it. And there's some documentation in here because part of this service was given to the Peabody Essex Museum in 1991 by the family. And the reason the Peabody Museum wanted it was to add it to their collection because if you read down here, Alfred Higgins owned these, and he was the owner of the ship, the Indiana, which was a China trade vessel during the first half of the 19th century. And this was a service he ordered in China, and that's why it has this rather unusual pattern to it. If you pull it up and let's see if we can. There we are. You'll notice that the cartouche around the figures here are shaped like Chinese jade, like the Chinese chimes. They're sort of flange-shaped, V-shaped like this, and they often made of jade. And here they use that form to create the cartouches, and then went around. You can see the string coming off the top of the chime here, where it would hang. Okay, and then you have these nice figures in the middle, and then all these very good, very well decorated famille rose enamels around it. Brilliant gilt handles. The gilding on it was excellent. very fine gilding, and it had a matching undertray. And there's the set upside down and inside out and so forth. There's the Peabody letter. And here's some more. Here's some more. And just a great piece of porcelain. Great set. $437. Go figure. And this is a sort of strange thing. That tureen and undertray, which was not a huge one. It was on the 8, 9, 10-inch range. Sold for that, but it was a tureen, and usually tureens bring a premium because typically when they made these big services, there might be 2 small tureens and maybe 1, possibly 2 larger tureens, and that was it. And the rest was cups, saucers, plates, and bowls, meat platters, and all that other stuff, which made up the other 110 pieces, 120 pieces in the service. But here you have a nice big platter, 16 inches diameter. And this one sold for $752, which I think was still reasonable, but a bigger price than what the tureen and undertray brought. So go figure. It's one of those confusing things. You never understand it. And then there was the Satsuma piece by Kinko-san. This was such a nice piece of Satsuma. Even if you don't collect Satsuma, you have to recognize how pretty this was. The detail is unbelievable. The detail and the quality of this piece was just fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. I love how they have their little tea cart there. She's writing something down, and it's just a great thing. More signatures, more work. Sold very well. It sold for $2,650, which wasn't a big surprise. We talked about it last week because I thought it was so wonderful. Geez, great piece of Satsuma. And then he had the puce, or raspberry colored Fitzhugh plates. We talked about it because this is the most desirable of pretty much of all the colors in this pattern, in this export, where these were made around 1790 to 1810, somewhere in there. There was a little bit of wear to it here and here on the enamels because these were used. People ate off of these. Imagine what a table would look like covered with this porcelain. It would be spectacular. The tureens and the platters and everything. $800 for the plate. All right, and this one, an orange Fitzhugh is worth around $400, and he had some of those too, I believe, in this. I think that's about what they brought. And then the green ones are worth even less, and so forth. But the puce examples are the rarest, and they always do well. All right, and then on to this, the big rose mandarin jar. This was a beautiful jar, and it was in good condition. Made around 1830, 1840. Here's a picture of the bottom of it. It's exactly what it should look like. And it was 24 inches in height. Now, if you're on the global pages, there's another one almost identical to this that's up there right now for sale with a $300 to $500 estimate. So somebody might have a shot at it. This sold for $7,877. A very strong price, but beautiful condition. Early rose mandarin. There you go. All right. And if you don't know the difference between rose mandarin, rose canton, and that sort of thing, we actually have a video on it explaining it somewhere on our YouTube thing here. So if you've always been confused by what's the difference between rose mandarin, rose medallion, and rose canton, there's about a 5-minute video that explains what the differences is, so you'll always know. Because I often have people saying, "Why isn't it? It looks like it's rose mandarin, but it's rose medallion." They're similar, but they are quite different when you look at them. Anyway, the video will explain it. And then the hot water dishes. These are Rockefeller pattern dishes, hot water plates that Josh had. These are very, very nice. They're always in demand. Very good quality enameling, as you can see. Extremely delicately painted. Good quality colors. The colors are crisp and bright. And as I mentioned last week, the gilding on the rims are in very good condition for this pattern. You often see the Rockefeller plates, the Rockefeller pattern plates, and they're all the enamels are worn down and worn away on the gilding side. So this is almost completely white on some pieces. Okay, there you go. And these sold for $6,600 for the two, which is a lot of money for a pair of hot water plates, but not a lot of money for Rockefeller patterns. All right, and then the last thing up was this. This was he had that Daoguan Marken period Hu formed vase. Somebody pointed out last week, and I wasn't clear. I didn't say it was imperial, but somebody in the comments from last week's video did say that, and he's right. This is not an imperial vase, but it is Marken period. All right, and it was a very nice example, and so forth. But anyway, because the imperial ones bring $50,000. This was mark and period, but not imperial, and there is a difference. So it still sold well. It sold for $10,400. All right. And it was a beautiful example. So Josh had a good series of auctions, and overall the market seems to be holding up remarkably well, given all the strife in the world and whatnot going on. Hopefully it'll keep on, and I think you're going to see some great things come up on the market. But as I've said many times, when you're looking at something, leave a bid. Just leave a bid. Don't think you'll come back to it, because you won't. People forget, and then on Sunday night a week later you go, oh, I forgot to bid on that piece. Leave a bid when you see it. Leave a bid when you see it, and then you'll be reminded. If you get outbid, you'll be notified, and then you're in the game. Otherwise, you're not in the game. You're punting, and you don't want to be a punter. You want to be a player. So leave a bid and get the things that you love. All right, build up a collection. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next week. We're working on a number of videos. Check those of you that are subscribers to the global member pages. Again, as always, thanks so much for your support. If you haven't subscribed yet, and you can spare about $1 a week to join, you get to use the pages, and it helps us run the site. Frankly, that's really what it all goes to. So keep that in mind. And I appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful weekend. Subscribe here if you haven't already. Leave a comment. I love the comments I read. I read them every week. I don't know. I usually leave a thumbs up if I don't say anything. Sometimes I comment, but I don't feel like I don't like to interlope on people's comments, I guess, what it amounts to. But I do read them all. It's fun to hear what people are thinking, because you're a smart bunch. All right. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.